So today we will go through the report manager and report server, and we'll understand about the different beautiful concepts of SSRS, right? So that is our today's agenda. So after this class, you'll be able to create reports comfortably, and you'll be able to deploy them, and you'll be able to use some advanced options available in the SSRS, right? So my suggestion for you guys is like SSRS is a reporting tool, but when you develop it, it may be simple, but there's a lot of logic involved, right? So how that logic comes, it comes from the different concept. It comes from the database concept. It comes from the analytical concept, right? So it comes from the how you understand the data and how you understand what type of report can generate using what type of data. So there is some understanding. That understanding you'll get only by practice, right? So here I'm telling you how to do the things, but if you want to have deep level understanding, you have to do the practice, right? You have to do a lot of practice, right? So this is something we have today. So what I'll do is just a second. Show my screen. Okay, just give me a second. Okay, great. So what we'll do is we'll go through some other reporting concepts today, and I'll show you how you can use some advanced features also. Okay. So what I'll do is like I opened my SQL Server Data Tools as an administrator. Okay. And in the previous class we have created a project called module1_Edureka_SSRS reports, right? So what I'll do is I'll edit in the same project, because I need not create in the data sources and data sets again, right? So I'll just open the same project, right? So before jumping into the real concepts of module 9, I'll touch base with some of the concepts available in the reporting tools, right? Okay. Just give me a second. Okay. Okay, that's great. So what I'll do is I'll add a new. So this is our reporting report server project, right? So in the report server project, what happens is like you know already about this wizard, and on the left side you have the toolbox, and on the right side you have the something related to the project, and you have a shared data source and the shared data sets, and you have the reports. Example, if you click a report, how to add a new report, right click, add new item, right? Right click, add new item, and here instead of selecting a report wizard, you have to select the report. What happens if you select the report wizard? If you select report wizard, what happens is a wizard will be opening up, and where you can input your things, and the report will be automatically created for you, right? But usually in the real world, unless you are doing some ad hoc reporting, if you are working in a project, you will not go for the report wizard. You will usually go for the report, right? So this time I want to give a report, something related to Spark lines. Okay. Okay. So in the toolbox, right? In the toolbox, we have seen what is a text box. We know what is a line, what is a table, what is a matrix. Rectangle is a rectangle. We have already seen what is a list report, which is kind of a table. You can always have an image in your report, maybe a company logo. You can just drag and drop, right? And we have seen what is a sub report. We have seen what is a chart, bar chart, pie chart. We have seen what is a gauge, right? But what we have not seen is we have not seen some of the bottom sections here, right? So we'll go through couple of concepts here, right? Because this indicator is same as gauge, which we have covered in the last class. So I'm not going to cover that, right? But what I'm going to cover is like I'm going to cover something on the spark line, and I'm going to cover something on the map. Okay, how we can use the map, right? So but what is this spark line? Spark line is nothing but example, if before telling something about the Spark line, what I'll do is I'll use a matrix report. Okay, I'll tell you what is a Spark line. Right? Example, it is saying what kind of data set you want to use. Okay, some data set. Example, I'll delete this later, but some data set I'll use. Right. What I'll do is like I'll drag and drop this Spark line here. Okay. Okay. So I have drag and drop this just to show you this particular box. Okay. So what is a Spark line? Spark line is something like a chart. It is a chart. The Spark line is a chart where you can have the list of Spark line based on the trend. Okay. So what is based on the trend? Example, right? You have a particular product. Okay, which you are selling from last 10 years. Okay. That product in year 2001 maybe the sales amount may be $50,000. Okay, and in 2002 the same product, the sales amount may be $60,000. In 2005 it may be $100,000, but suddenly in 2010 it may be only $10,000. It means that from 2001 to 2005 there is an increase, and after that there is a decrease, right? So this kind of, if you have the data set something like this, then we can create the Spark lines. So Spark line report can be created only to do the trend analysis. Okay, just remember one point, Spark line reports are created just to do some trend analysis. So how you can know the trend? If you have the historical data, then only you can know the trend. Otherwise, if you know only 1 year data, so you cannot compare it with the next year, right? Or you cannot compare with the data with the 5 years. So you should have a data set where you have some points on the historical basis. Okay. So to do this, right, what I'll do is like I'll tell you a new concept. I'll not select this data source, I'll delete it. Okay. So my data source is something different this time. Okay. This time what I want to do is I want to connect to my cube. Okay. Very important and interview question. Okay. How do you connect to a cube in SSRS? Right? How do you connect to a cube in SSRS? Right? So what you have to do is, before even explaining something about the Spark lines, what I'll do is I'll explain something about how to connect to a cube from a SSRS report. Right? So in the last class we have studied something about, in some previous classes we have studied something about the cube, right? And we have deployed the cube, and what we did is we have accessed that through the Excel sheet, right? But what I told you is, I told you there are some options where you can access them through the reporting server also, or you can have a reporting server plugin installed in a SharePoint and you can see display your cube there also, right? There are the different ways of accessing the cube. So previous classes we have seen how to connect it from an Excel sheet, right? But in this class we will see how to browse a cube from SSRS report. Very important, right? So to connect to a cube from SSRS report, what I have to do is I have to right click. First of all, I have to create a data source which is my analysis server, right? Usually this is whatever the data source you are seeing here, it is my reporting server, it is my database server, right? But this time I have to connect to a data source which is the analysis server. So what I'll do is, okay, I can even do it in a different project, so that at least we have two models. I'll exit this. Okay, what I'll do is I'll open it as a run as administrator again. Yes. So I'll do it in the two projects so that we have two models, right? Report server project. So my project is module 2 underscore Edureka underscore SSRS project, right? So this is my project. I'll just click OK. Yep. So now I don't have anything here, but here what I want to, my first step is to connect to a cube. So I'll add a new data source, right? So what is my new data source? Is it a database engine? No. My data source is this time is a analysis services. So there is a option for here to connect to the Microsoft Analysis Services. So I'll just select Microsoft Analysis Services here. Okay. So as usual, you have to give the data source, edit, just give the name, server name of your analyst services. My server name of analyst services is this one, right? I've given that. And as soon as you have the Windows authentication to that server, you should have Windows authentication, or you should have some role to that server. The person who is developing this should have some role defined in that server, at least read-only access or some admin permission, right? I have admin permission to that server. So these are my list of cubes. Whatever the things you are seeing here are the list of cubes. If you observe carefully, this particular section, these are my list of cubes, right? Which we have deployed as part of the analysis services, right? As part of the analysis services. So what I'll do is, I'll select one of the cubes from here. Okay, I'll select one of the cubes. So we have created a cube called Internet Sales Cube. We have created a cube called Internet Sales Cube, which was up and running, right? Test connection, okay, click OK, right? So credentials. So what is the credentials? Use my Windows authentication. Yes, you can use my Windows authentication to connect to analysis services, right? It can use that. Click OK. Now I have created my data source. So I have to create a data set. How I can create a data set? I can create a data set using my data source as a cube, right? So what is a data set? It will retrieve some data from the cube, and it will generate a MDX query. It will generate a MDX query out of that particular cube. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll add new data set. Okay. So before going here, what I'll do is like my data set. So data set name here, it is appearing as data source 1. Data source 1, right? I don't want this to be a data source 1, and I want it to be with a good name. What I'll do is I'll put it as a Internet Sales Cube. This is my data set, right? Just click OK, and I'll create a data set here. So as soon as you create a data set, you have to give a name, right? What I'll do is sales by product line. Okay, this is my sales by product line is my data set name, right? So what is your data source? You have to specifically choose your data source here, which is my Internet Sales Cube, which I have just created, right? By default it is automatically selected. What I'll do is it is selected, so I'll not do anything. So here it is asking you to write a query. So if I type something on my keyboard, right, actually nothing is working. I'm typing something on my keyboard, but nothing is working here. Okay, so here to use cube from your SSRS report, what you have to do is you have to use a particular thing called Query Designer, which is located in the bottom section. You have to use a particular thing called Query Designer, which is located in the bottom section, right? What I'll do is I'll click Query Designer. As soon as I click the Query Designer, it is showing me all the dimensions of the cube and the measures what we have created last time, right? So here what I'll do is I'll drag and drop. Okay, what I'll do here is I'll drag and drop. What I want is I want English product category name, right? I want English product category name, I want subcategory name, and I want the product name. Okay, and the measure, what I want is I want the sales amount. Okay, I want the sales amount, and I want the example. I'll take another thing called standard cost, right? I can actually easily drag and drop for all the things, right? And there are some sections for filter where you can apply the filter and parameter, all those things. Okay, right? So what is happening internally here? As soon as you're dropping, okay, so there is another important thing here, because we have created perspectives for our cube. When we have deployed cube, we have created perspectives called finance perspective, logistics perspective, internet sales, different perspectives, right? So here we am selecting the perspective, so you have the option to change the perspective also, and you have the option to change the filters also, right? Right? So here what it is doing internally, internally it is doing, it is generating a MDX query. What it is doing? Internally it is generating a MDX query, which is form of a, which you are generating in the form of a designer, right? So I have selected some dimensions, I have selected some measures and click OK. As soon as I click OK, I got my MDX query selected. If you copy this MDX query and if you execute in your analysis services MDX query designer, it will give the same output as what you are seeing here. Okay. Sometimes this is a very tricky situation where you can use this particular part. Example, you want to write a MDX query somewhere. You want to write a MDX query somewhere, but it takes a lot of time for you to write MDX query, right? So what you can do is you can use this SSRS report, connect, make a data set and do whatever you want here. Do whatever you want in the query designer, right? Do whatever you want in the query designer, apply all the settings and click OK, and your MDX query will be ready. And you just copy this MDX query and use it somewhere else. So this is useful to generate the MDX query also, right? So this is one of the tricks we use when we want MDX queries to be generated and to be used somewhere else. Instead of writing the MDX queries, we use this trick, right? So this is my trick. So I got the fields, I don't have filters, just like this is my data set created, right? Click OK. So I have a sales by product line here. What I'll do is I'll create a Spark line report, add new item. I'll create a new report called Spark lines. Okay. So here I have the data source and data set, right? I can actually add a data set which is my shared data. Which is my shared data set, right? So data source, this shared data set is automatically accessing my shared data set, which is internally accessing the data source. I want to change the name of this local sales by, okay, sales by product line, local, okay, local data set, right? So this everything is same. Just click OK. It is saying that you can, names are not allowed like this. Just click OK. It is not allowing me to put hyphen, right? So I just clicked OK. That's fine. So now my data set is ready. So what is my data set? This data set actually it is coming from a cube. Okay. So to demonstrate the concept of Spark lines, what I'll do is I'll use a matrix report. Okay. In the matrix report, what you do is I'll put a English product category name, subcategory name. Okay. I'll use two things here. Okay. And what I want is I want sales amount. Okay. I want sales amount here. Okay. So what I'm doing is this is my English product category name. What I'll do is okay. I'll expand this, okay, a little bit. Click here and expand this a bit, okay, so that it is visible. And what I'll do is I want to add spark lines. Okay, there is a trick here. If you want to add spark lines, what you have to do is you have to go to your matrix report. Okay, go to your matrix report. So in your matrix report there are different sections, right? This section is for rows and this is the list of columns, right? So, and this is the values what you have. Okay, these are values what you have, right? Here we are missing with something. Okay, what we are missing, we want to do the trend analysis by the year, right? I want the year also in my data set. So what I'll do is I'll modify my data set. Go to this one, query designer, because I have only the sales amount and standard cost, but I don't have the year wise things here, right? So what I'll do is I'll go to the time dimension and I'll put a particular year. So I have the year wise things here, click OK. So now I have the year also here, which is calendar year. Click OK, right? So what I have to do is I have to come to this data set, right, and click refresh this, because it is shared data source. I'm accessing the shared data source. It is not refreshing automatically, right? So what I'll do is I'll delete this particular thing first. Okay, I'll delete this particular thing and create a new data set again. Okay, sales by product line local, right? So if I go to the fields, this one I have to select this, go to the fields. Now I have my calendar year here, right? The metadata was not refreshed because we have built it already, right? Now I have my calendar year here, right? So what I'll do is I'll put calendar year. So what I'll do is I'll delete this, whatever I have, I'll delete this, okay? I'll put calendar year on the top, okay? It is saying that only fields from the current data set can be used. Because we have already built the report previously and the metadata was not refreshed, it is not able to recognize our previous things, right? So in this kind of cases, what I'll do is I'll delete this. I'll put a matrix report again. In the rows section, I want product category name, subcategory category name, right? As soon as I put in the row section, it is creating a row group. Under product category, there is a product subcategory. So what is my column group? Column group I want it to be a year. Now it is not giving error because it is not able to understand the metadata. So sometimes you have to deal with these metadata problems very cleverly, right? I'll put a sales amount as my data. Okay. So let us say what is output, right? This is output. Okay. So let us wait for this to come, right? Let us give, yeah, now it is coming, right? So what is happening? This is the English product category name. Under this category, these are the subcategories. Because you have grabbed the drag and drop the year column in the column section, it is automatically pivoting the data. If you have 10 years, it will create the 10 columns in the output. Now I have only 4 years, it has created 4 columns in the output, and this is the sales amount. This is the sales amount, right? So this is the normal report. What I'll do is I'll show you how to create a spark line, right? To create a spark line, just click like this, click here, right click, and here what you have to do is insert column outside the group. Insert column outside the group, right side. Here what I'll do is I'll put the trend. I'll put the name as sales trend by year, right? And I'll go to the toolbox and I'll put a thing called spark line. As soon as I put my spark line, it is showing the same wizard which I was showing you initially. What I'll do is I want the report spark line of this kind, right? And I'll click OK, right? Now I have the spark line here, but what kind of what is the spark line we wanted to that to do? It should show the sales amount for the different years, how it is trending, right? For the different products. For this, click here, click again. As soon as you click, it is showing you some. You should have to click on the spark line. First of all, when you click, it will click on a text box, okay? And then you have to click it again on the spark line and this window will appear. Otherwise this window will not appear, okay? So I have 3 sections, right? So what is my values section? What is the trend I want to show? I want to show the trend of sales amount, right? I just selected sales amount. I want to show the trend by year, right? Calendar year. So this is my category group. I want to show the trend by year for sales amount. That's it, okay? So now I have created outside the group the script preview. Now if you see this, right, now this is a beautiful report, okay, where you cannot generate these kind of reports very easily in any of the other reporting tools or in any of the standard programming language. Example is something like .NET and Java. If you have to create something like this, it's very tough. It takes a lot of time, right? But what it is showing here, sales, actually it is showing the sales trend by year, right? So the sales for accessories bike race in 2003 was this much, and it has increased from 16,000 to 22,000. So there is an increase. Okay. So all the products, what you are seeing here, actually it is increasing here. Okay. So by looking at the graph here, you can know which products are not stabilized, or what are the products which are going down. So as soon as if I don't have this particular thing, right, if I don't have this particular section, it's very tough for me to decide. I have to go through each and every number. If I don't have this, I have to go through each and every number and compare how the sales is going, right? It is very tough for a person to analyze how the sales is going, right? But if I have a graph, something like this, if I have a graph, something like this, I can quickly find out the anomalies. I can quickly find out what is going wrong. Example, I can quickly find out there is something going wrong in this particular section. There is something wrong here, right? So initially it was going up and suddenly it has coming down, right? So I can just read the data. Okay, in the year 2001, right, the sales amount was this much. How much is that? 2 million, 2.6 million, and then it has increased to 4.9 million. But suddenly 2 years it increased, but suddenly it decreased to 3.95 million from 4.9 million. So that's why there is a drop. And again in the next year it has decreased to 2.9 million, so there is a drop again. So this kind of analysis, if you wanted to do, if any of the business user asks you this kind of analysis, then you have to make sure that you have the year-wise trend as your data set. You have to think in that way, and you can generate the Sparkline reports in this way, right? And always to generate the Spark, you can always beautify this, the colors and all those things. Go to the property and always go to the different things here available in the Sparkline, and you can always beautify this using the different properties available, right? So that is something about the Sparkline, right? So but there is another section in the Sparkline. If I go here, right, I have something called a series. You can do a comparison between the two things. Now we are doing the sales amount, right? You can do the comparison of the product cost also. Example, if I want to have two Sparklines, two series, then I have to select something from series, which I'll select as a product cost. As soon as I selected the series there, I have two lines here. As soon as I selected the series here, products, and I have two lines. Earlier I had only one line, right? So if I go here, right, so how it is showing the comparison. Because if there is no product standard cost, it is not showing anything. But if there is any product standard cost, it is showing two things. Okay, it is showing two things here, how the product standard cost and this is changing, right? This is how you can use the Sparkline. So but basically if you want to use the very standard one, just delete this one and use the very standard. So you can have this category by year and you can have this category by anything else, right? But make sure that your data is a historical data which is having the past 1 year column or 2 year or 3 years column, right? So this is how you can generate the reports using the Sparklines.